The books of Adam and Eve continued. And Adam carried Eve and the boy and led them to the east. And the Lord God sent divers seeds by Michael the archangel, and gave to Adam and showed him how to work and till the ground, that they might have fruit, by which they and all their generations might live. For therefore Eve conceived and bore a son, whose name was Abel. And Cain and Abel used to stay together. And Abel said to Adam, My Lord, while I sleep I saw a vision, as it were the blood of our son Abel in the hand of Cain, who was gulping it down his mouth. Therefore I have sorrow. And Adam said, Alas, if Cain slew Abel. Yet let us separate them from each other mutually, and let us make for each of them separate dwellings. And they made Cain a husbandman, but Abel they made a shepherd, in order that in this wise they might be mutually separated. And therefore Cain slew Abel, but Adam was then 130 years old. But Abel was slain when he was 120 years old. And thereafter Adam knew his wife, and he begat a son, whose name was Seth. And Adam said to Eve, Behold, I have begotten a son, in place of Abel, who Cain slew. And after Adam had begotten Seth, he lived 800 years, and begat 30 sons and 30 daughters, in all 63 children, and they were increased over the face of the earth in their nations. And Adam said to Seth, Hear, my son Seth, that I may relate to thee what I heard and saw after your mother and I had been driven out of paradise. When we were at prayer, there came to me Michael the archangel, a messenger of God, and I saw a chariot like the wind, and its wheels were fiery, and I was caught up into paradise of righteousness. And I saw the Lord sitting, and his face was flaming fire that could not be endured, and many thousands of angels were on the right and on the left of that chariot. And when I saw this, I was confounded, and terror seized me, and I bowed myself down before God with my face to the earth. And God said to me, Behold, thou diest, since thou hast transgressed the commandment of God. For thou didst hearken rather to the voice of thy wife, whom I gave into thy power, that thou mightest hold her to thy will. Yet thou didst listen to her, and didst pass by my words. And when I heard these words from God, I fell prone on the earth and worshipped the Lord and said, My Lord, all powerful and merciful God, holy and righteous one, let not the name that is mindful of thy majesty be blotted out, but convert my soul, for I die, and my breath will go out of my mouth. Cast me not from thy presence, me, whom thou didst form from the clay of the earth. Do not banish from thy favour him whom thou didst nourish. And lo, a word concerning thee came upon me, and the Lord said to me, Since thy days were fashioned, thou hast been created with the love of knowledge. Therefore there shall not be taken from thy seed forever the right to serve me. And when I heard these words, I threw myself on the earth and adored the Lord God and said, Thou art the eternal and supreme God, and all creatures give honour and praise to thee. Thou art the true light gleaming above all lights, the living life, the infinite mighty power. To thee the spiritual powers give honour and praise, and thou workest on the race of men the abundance of thy mercy. After I had worshipped the Lord, straightway Michael, God's archangel, seized my hands and cast me out of the paradise of vision and of God's command. And Michael held a rod in his hand, and he touched the waters which were round about paradise, and they froze hard. And I went across, And Michael the archangel went across with me, and he led me back to the place whence he had caught me up. Hearken, my son Seth, even to the rest of the secrets and sacraments that thou shalt be, which were revealed to me, when I had eaten of the tree of the knowledge, and knew and perceived what will come to pass in this age, what God intends to do to his creation and the race of men. The Lord will appear in a flame of fire, and from the mouth of his majesty he will give commandments and statutes. From his mouth will proceed a two-edged sword, and they will sanctify him in the house of habitation of his majesty. And he will show them the marvellous place of his majesty. And then they will build a house to the Lord their God in the land which he shall prepare for them. And there they will transgress his statutes, and their sanctuary will be built up, and their land will be deserted, and they themselves will be dispersed, because they have kindled the wrath of God. And once more he will cause them to come back from their dispersion, and again they will build the house of God. And in the last time the house of God will be exalted greater than of old. And once more iniquity will exceed righteousness. And thereafter God will dwell with men on earth in visible form. And then righteousness will begin to shine. And the house of God will be honoured in the age. And their enemies will no more be able to hurt men who are believing in God. And God will stir up for himself a faithful people, whom he shall serve for eternity. And the impious shall be punished by God their King, the men who refuse to love his law. Heaven and earth, nights and days, and all creatures shall obey him and not overstep his commandment. Men shall not change their works, but they shall be changed from forsaking the law of the Lord. Therefore the Lord shall repel from him the wicked, and the just shall shine like the sun in the sight of God. And in that time shall men be purified by water from their sins. But those who are unwilling to be purified by water shall be condemned. And happy shall the man be who hath ruled his soul, when the judgment shall come to pass, and the greatness of God be seen among men, and their deeds be inquired into by God, the just judge. This is the end of this reading.